Welcome to another video of my solo playthrough of Axis and Allies Revised. This is the Russian turn in turn 3, and actually this video is different from the other ones I've recorded so far because it's actually about some pre-turn deliberations. The Russians still have to take their turn, and I just want to go over a couple of options they have. One thing they could try, and note that there's actually 5 infantry here. What they could do is, for instance, attack Karelia, although there's a lot of German infantry here as well. As you can see, that one of them is green as well, so it's about 10 or something. Still, it's something they could do and have some kind of strafing attack, so perhaps with these infantry along with the artillery, perhaps the infantry from Archangel and the tank from Caucasus along with the 2 fighters and the bomber from Russia. What they could do is perhaps a strafing attack, meaning that they're not so much trying to conquer the territory but to strip the Germans of their infantry support. Of course, the downside of that is that the Russians are very likely to suffer a lot of losses themselves as well. So I wonder if they're actually going to have any real benefit from that. So even though it's a possibility, I don't really think that is the best option for them. They could also move fully into Ukraine, perhaps even all the units from Caucasus, along with perhaps all the units from Western Russia, or just one of those. Well, I don't think that moving the Western Russian troops into Ukraine is a very good idea, but perhaps the units from Ukraine SSR, obviously without the fighters because they would have to return. You could put them there more or less to face to force the Germans to attack you, because it looks like the Germans are really building up here, but they have very few infantry to actually counterattack with, so they are likely to suffer some losses from their tanks, and perhaps, if it goes very badly for them, their aircraft, although that is not very likely, but they will probably lose some tanks if they decide to counterattack. So that's certainly an option. Of course, another option is simply to build more forces, because time is on the Allied side. They don't necessarily need to attack so much, but of course, moving into Ukraine will completely expose the German southern flank, along with the Americans later. They could land there too. So these German units will definitely have to move in here to either protect it or to shore it up. Same goes for France. So so Russia has a lot of options there. Obviously, the biggest threat is here in the north. If they don't do anything about Leningrad, then the Germans will definitely take Archangel on their turn, and of course, the Russians will still have their build turn, so they could probably build some more infantry, for instance, in Russia, maybe a couple of artillery for a counterattack. And then along with the forces in Belarus, no, it's not Belarus, it's Western Russia, then they actually do stand a very good chance of if not defeating the German stack there, to at the very least, cause some very heavy casualties. Now, what about the Far East? The Russians could decide to move into Buryatia to really put some pressure on the Japanese, which will force the Japanese to divert some units up north, because the tank, perhaps along with the bomber, can really deliver a punch, of course, already for the Russians, and they have a stack of infantry, and maybe they wouldn't be able to keep Manchuria for a very long time, but they will definitely cause a headache to the Japanese, also because Japan proper doesn't have a lot of units either, and the Americans can already pose a threat there too, and so there's still something Japan can do about that on their turn. They can move the fleet there, but that is not what they want to do. They want to attack India and not be busy too much with the Russians and Americans. So that's a little bit about the Russian options for turn 3. And I hope I'd be interested in hearing some comments, what you think the best option is. Note that there's quite a lot of infantry here in There's up to 8 infantry here in Caucasus, 5 in Western Russia. So they do, yeah, they certainly have some options, and one option is certainly better than the other, so I'd be interested in hearing what you would do. Okay, thank you for watching.